ahead,
I
Anthony.
would say if you've got a top five coaching room, I don't think you need
Yeah.
to be a top five head coach.
You think Aaron Glenn goes to another team as a head coach after this season, Anthony?
Not if the defense sucks again. And that's been. I'm being polite there because he had so many injuries last year, and he was working with so little that what he did manage to do was a minor miracle. And like I say, the guys on the defensive line, they looked like they were getting better. Amani had his best year, yet you could see how hard they were fighting. They were playing better than the sum of their parts, which is what a good coordinator does. And I really like that. This year, we've stacked up on that defensive line, got a lot of talent on there. Our cornerback room is stacked. I'm going to expect to see a much better defense this year. I'm not saying top 10 or anything like that, but I'd like to see it in the late teens if possible, or in the minimum in the upper 20s. If he wants to prove he's going to be a head coach, he has to show that he can do more than just make a bad unit work more than the sum of its parts. He's got to make a proper unit up and get it going. And if the Detroit defense does well this year, keeps us in games, allows the offense, which will be our strength, to win us games, then he'll be off very quickly. But I think if we struggle again, I'm not buying it.
What's more important, a top five head coach or a top five coaching room? Dang,
Ooh.
Alan Dana, that's a sick
Ooh.
question, by the way. I love it.
I think
Go ahead, Anthony.
I would say if you've got a top five coaching room, I don't think you need
Yeah.
to be a top five head coach. I think you can be a decent head coach. For me, it's like Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell knows he can't do it all. And that's the good thing about him. He doesn't try and take on all the responsibility like, he who shall not be named did, who just ruled everything. Campbell knows what he's good at, and then he delegates what he knows he's not good at, and it works. So for me, I'd take the top five coaching room because I say you don't need a top five head coach if you've got that. For me.
Yeah,
What do you think,
for sure.
Mark?
No, I think the same thing, man. Like, we know that Dan Campbell's not the X's and O's type guy. He's not going to be that guy that is going to completely take over everything. He needs some guys surrounding him. He needs some coaches that are going to, literally tell him what needs to be done here. So if you can have a top five coaching room, for sure here, I think is more bonus than anything right there. So top five coaching room for me, for sure.
AG or Deuce will replace Motor City Dan Campbell if they on. I want Motor City Dan Campbell here for life. Yeah, I think he's going to be here for a long time. That's my opinion on it. I think we got a pretty good head coach for sure. I think that AG will probably end up getting another job next year. I have a feeling the defense will take a nice step forward. It's not like it was great last year, so I think they're going to do a step forward. And Deuce Staley is underrated as well. He's very underrated. If they missed your question, repost it with a hashtag up for 100%, folks. I'm not intentionally trying to miss questions. If I miss it, just repost it. I always say do a copy and paste. Sometimes they come in fast and furious. Sometimes they're a little bit slower like today. But again, if I miss it, just repost it. Hashtag FGB. Thank you, Ted Coleman. Do you think the D-line can make a difference and make the poor linebackers a little less cheeks? Always. I think if you have a really good defensive line, it makes the rest of the defense look better. The linebackers, of course, as well as the secondary, because you're putting pressure on that quarterback and you help clogging up the run. Now, linebackers there, they'll have an opportunity to make a better play. It's simple as that. I don't know how much better it's going to be. You still got to have some decent linebackers. This is why you got to subscribe to Aurora Lions UK, because they had a debate on this yesterday about the cheeks of the linebacking core, how it's not that good. I do believe the defensive line can cure some of the deficiencies, but not all of them, Anthony.
No, I think for me, and I've said this a while now, this all comes down to how do you utilize your linebackers. I said that there's not one linebacker we have that deserves starter level snaps yet, whether they be rookies, special teams guys who ain't proven it, or whether they're senior guys who really shouldn't be taking them. But you have a room where you have different weapons available to you, like Jared Davis. He's good against the run. He's good when he's rushing the passer. I mean, there was a bit about this yesterday, and in the limited times he rushes the passer, actually gets really good success there. Barnes, when we drafted Barnes from Purdue, Barnes is all about the blitz. He is a blitzing linebacker. He is not a coverage linebacker. And what did we do last year? We sat him in coverage where he's no good. So you play him as a blitzer, especially now that you've got the defensive line. You have the assets to use your linebackers, your blitzing linebackers, to go through and cause havoc. And therefore, you cover up the deficiencies in the coverage aspect of it. You know, Malcolm Rodriguez, he's going to start very quickly. He's great against the run. Was it 13 forced fumbles in the last 2 seasons? The guy makes plays and makes turnovers if you use him to his strengths. Don't have him there marking big-ass tight ends and stuff like that, where he's going to struggle. Bring him up against the run and be aggressive, and that's the key to this season. Our linebacking group will be fine, just fine, not great, if you use them to the best of their ability. If you're passive and leave them, they're going to be terrible. If you're aggressive and use them at what they're good at and rotate them in and out on a situational basis as to when you can use them, I think they'll actually surprise a few people. And that's where I sit at with them.
No more 3rd and 13 rush, 3 whiffs this year. Yeah, I agree, man. That stuff was driving me ape. I concur with that. I think it did get better, though, by the halfway through the season. Should we be a top 5 running game? If not, why? No, we're not going to be a top 5 because we actually have weapons on offense that's not running game, and I think they're going to be evenly balanced, and that's going to result in not having a top 5 running game. If you've seen last year, we started getting aggressive with Ben Johnson. I think it was obviously better running last year than we probably have in the last decade, but since Matthew Stafford carried this offense, it's not saying a whole lot. I think it's still going to be a half-half this season, so no, not top 5. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way. I think we have the talent to be a top 5 running, like as a whole unit, as 4 or 5 running backs if we need to use them. But like Mike said, this is going to be a mixed bag. We're going to be throwing the ball a lot. They put some capital into guys like Jameson Williams coming here, eventually playing, and then like DJ Chark. You got a lot of weapons going around aerial attack. So weapons-wise, or like talent-wise, I mean to say, yes, but I don't think it's going to happen, no.
Anthony?
I think we have the potential to be. It depends how we utilize it, because we've got the full offensive line this year. You've got Ragnow in there, obviously. You've got Sewell in there now. I think we might use it a bit more. I think maybe, last year, we were sort of forced into passing it a little bit more at times, especially when Anthony Lynn was running that god-awful offense when he couldn't run the ball to save his life. I think that we might utilize it. But like I say, we've got a very varied running back room. So I think there's a lot you can do with that. I'd like to see more 2-back sets in there and sort of throw the surprise in a little bit more. And maybe, because people might be expecting us to throw it more with Chark and when JMO's fit and when Amon Ra's in there. But these guys can block as well. So you can form an effective running game with them. And at the end of the day, if you get the running game going, you control the clock, you stay on the pitch. It's still a vital part of going forward. And we have the assets to do that now. That was the problem last year. The defense was good, but it was on the pitch all the time. And there's only so much it can deal with. So I'd like to see us use it more. And I think potentially, yeah, we do. We've got a top 5 offensive line, so why can't the running backs behind it produce? Similar.
I love it. I love the run game. That's how you win, especially in the fourth quarter. You control the clock, and you just make defenses pay. That's why I love Derrick Henry and the Titans when they just maul people. There's just, it's happening, but there's nothing you can do about it. And that is a success for winning, especially when it's colder out. And I love the run game. What draft pick do you feel is overhyped the most by far the fan base, and will that pick live up to the hype? This one to me is absolutely easy. The most overhyped person, in my opinion, is Malcolm Rodriguez. I don't know the absolute hype. Like, this guy went from being... Look, I get it. I think he's talented. I just think I'm getting told this guy is going to be in the Pro Bowl. This guy is going to be the leader on defense right away. Whoa. We got to crawl before we can walk here. I think he's going to, just like he said, he's going to start on special teams. He'll get implemented in there. I think that's just how they operate. So my expectations for him is much lower. in my opinion, but that's not bad at all. It's just
No.
what I expect the Detroit Lions to do. Now, if there's a mass amount of injuries, I'd love to see him out there. I prefer the younger players over the veterans because I feel that's the future of this football team. Mark, what about you?
No, I think it's the same thing, Mike. I think it's Malcolm Rodriguez. And before I go on, I love the kid. I think I think he was super productive at Oklahoma State. But yes, he slipped to the 6th round, probably due to his size, maybe because he did play in the Big 12, but he is productive. But like, you're hearing guys like fan base going, this guy's the next Chris Spielman, this guy's the next Luke Kuechly, and I'm like, okay, we need to just maybe time out a little bit on this kid. When they drafted him, they were looking at him. Dave Phipp was very excited that he was going to be in their special teams room. Now, you look at it on another level and you go, well, look at this linebacker room. This is a really, really bad linebacker room. Could he beat out a guy like Chris Board? Could he beat out Derek Barnes? There's a possibility that he could.
Yep.
I think Derek Barnes is a developing linebacker, but I also think Malcolm Rodriguez is a developing linebacker because you have to remember where Malcolm Rodriguez played his first 2 years in college. He was a safety, and then he played his last 2 years as a linebacker at Oklahoma State. So I do like the future for Malcolm Rodriguez. I think he's going to be a big part of this defense, but we just need to maybe just temper expectations a little bit on him because they're talking to him up, man, like he's the next Ray Lewis. And we just need to be careful with that.
I
need
know
to be
it's
careful
gonna
with
make
that. I like him
bad, and you don't want to do
yeah,
that.
like I like the first time he goes out there and there's a running back that turns him into a pretzel, people are going to be like, "Oh my God, I thought this guy was supposed to be Ray Lewis." It's not the case, man.
It's like
gotta be
saying
careful.
like Amon St. Brown's the next Megatron. Whoa, just chill, man. Like I love Amon St. Brown, but that's killing his hype. What about you, UK?
See, I'm different. I think it's Kirby Joseph. I think Kirby Joseph is getting a lot of hype from this fan base, and I think he's getting a lot of hype because people are desperate for a safety, especially after the whole argument that went on with Kyle Hamilton and everything, and should we go after him, and we passed on him when we went for JMO. I think people are trying to convince themselves that he is the next coming. We found ourselves an absolute steal at safety, and we didn't have to go after one of those big guys. And don't get me wrong, I don't like talking smack about the rookies. I love all the picks we've made, to be fair. And I think given the right development, Kirby Joseph is going to be very good for this team. But he is entering a room which is bare on talent. And he's probably going to be thrust into a lot of action this season against some top caliber quarterbacks. And, it's a massive jump up in opposition for him. And I'm just a little wary that the expectations are too big for him there. Because again, secondary has been ripe for picking the last few years. And if people start throwing on him, he starts giving up because he's known for a bit of ball hawk. He's known for getting the interceptions. Again, like with Rodriguez, I think people could turn on him very quickly. And, it's not his fault. I just think people are that determined to think that we've got the safety of the future and we've sorted it, that they're kind of overlooking that he's got a lot of work to do yet. So for me, that's him.
Perfect.